So the next step after we've made global corrections is to do some localized corrections. Now, I want to, of course, remind you that you're going to be implementing some things that you're learning over the next few weeks. So you may not have gotten to this point yet. So I'm going to introduce some new things that you might not have played with yet. I'm also going to bring back some throwbacks to try and help us out. Because one of the first things that I think that we should do is actually separate the image into certain areas, identify areas that we think we might like to color correct individually. Like if I just create a new layer here, and grab just a brush, cancel, deselect. What I wanted to do is just kind of paint in some areas. Like, I might want to say I want the background, and that's 1. And then I want the face, and that's 2. The hands, 3. I might want to do the overalls. That would be a 4th area, and then I don't think I'm going to mess with it, but I could potentially make this into a 5th area down here. So I can identify areas that I might want to individually manipulate. So the first thing I might want to do is actually make alpha channels. Save alpha channels that can help me. Now I'm going to do this really quickly just to show you how these might be useful. I don't have time to do this and really be clean about it right now. And of course for your project you should take that extra time and really do the best that you can to make things as clean as possible. Let me see if I can plug my tablet in to help me out here a little bit. But I'm just going to make selections to begin with. I'm using the quick select tool. And of course this is not going to be at all perfect. That whole alt to subtract, because I've got too much. I'm going to have to go in and clean this up. But this is a basic start for that background area. So now I can go up here to my select menu, tell it I want to save my selection, and I'll call it background. Okay, and now I can check in my channels panel, and there we go. I have this background. So it's also recognizing that I have a layer mask here. Layer masks and alpha channels are essentially the same thing is what you're going to find. So now I can deselect that, and if I want that back, if I want to edit that, I can get that back. So now I'll come in here and I'll do the face. And again, not perfect, probably should be cleaned up, but I can select save. Now I'll call that face. Deselect. That deselect is Control D on the keyboard. That's what I'm doing that you guys can't see. The hands. So select. Save selection. Hands. Okay. Deselect. And I'll go ahead and make one for the coveralls here. This should be pretty easy to do. And remember, you can go back and edit this. In fact, I'll show you guys how you can. So, select, save selection. Overalls, not coveralls. Alright, now I deselect, and if I look, I have in my channels panel, let me go ahead and collapse some of this other stuff. I have different layers for all of these different things. Okay? You know they're not super clean, and that's why I can paint on them. So, just painting black to clean that up now. So there's a strange little line there, it's gone. Oop, you can see multiples at once. And I'm sure I'm going to find that that needs to be cleaner, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. Okay, so now back to layers. And okay, so now I have some of these areas selected. Now I need to determine exactly what it is that I want to do with them. So now let's start to use some of these. Let's see how we can actually capitalize them. Let's do some of the easier ones first. I'm going to start with that background and the overalls. Now, one of the first things I want to do is actually bring those selections back. Now I can bring those selections back, if it makes you more comfortable, by going to Select, Load Selection, and then tell it I want the overalls. Okay, and now I can create an adjustment based on that. So if I go to my Adjustments panel, and in this case, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with the hue saturation. And I'm going to try to pop up the saturation a little bit. Ooh, I'm going to have to be careful because I don't want to make all... I want my blues to get brighter and blow up. So let's go into blues. That's not, of course, where it always exists. Oop, it didn't brighten. Not a whole lot gone on there yet. Try the greens. There's, well, that's kind of where some of it's going on. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm just trying to get the colors a little brighter and then make them feel nice and blue as well. And I don't know that I'm going to get it as blue as I want to. It's starting to help a little bit, but I'm just kind of playing with it. Really pop up those blues and cyans and see what happens here. There we go. So now it feels like it's a little brighter, a little bit more blue. Okay, so that's pretty simple, and you can see it's really forgiving. If I zoom in, you'll be able to see some of the edges, but it's not too bad. I mean, I don't see anything that's terribly distracting here. I don't have any big issues, and if I feel like, you know what, that button, I don't like that button was affected, I can actually just select my layer mask and then just paint black onto the button so the button's not affected. And you can see there it kind of goes back. So anywhere where you don't like what's happening, you can just kind of fix that. Alright, now let's try that, the background. Let's try, obviously it looks like there should be some pine trees back there, but it's not green. I don't know what the deal is there, but let's try to do something with that. So I'm going to go ahead and again load the selection for that background. Okay, and I'm going to create another adjustment layer. This time, I probably will go ahead and use hue saturation again. Might even just up the saturation. No, that's too much. So let's go with those greens. And of course, it's just not where I want it to be. Let's take the reds down. Let's see what that. There we go. Let's pop up the blues a little bit, maybe. It's not really helping that much. It's looking a little bit more green than it was before. Getting a little too bright in some areas, but we can fix that. I can either go in and paint out the effect like so. Of course, I'd want to be a little bit more careful than that. Cancel. Or I could actually again use the same layer mask, and let's do a brightness contrast. Where's my brightness contrast at? Right there. And bring up the contrast and the brightness in that background area. Okay. And now I have a cumulative effect. I'm kind of liking the way that's going. You can always hold Alt, click the visibility icon, you can see how far you've come. Let's see. All right, now we get into the more complicated stuff, and this, this is going to be tricky, because the reality is that while I know I'm teaching you guys some methods for skin in the lectures, I know from experience that in a photograph that is this far off, that this skin and this skin is not going to respond to that method. You can try it, and I kind of brought it up here so you can take a look at it again so that you're getting a little reinforcement. Our formula looks like this here. Yellow is greater than or equal to magenta. Cyan is 1/3 to 1/5 of magenta. And then, of course, there shouldn't be any black. And I could try to put my color samplers down, in a diffuse area. Let me kind of zoom in here. And here you can see where my layer masks are sloppy. That background layer mask really should be a lot cleaner than that. But click there, tell it I want a 5x5 average, and then if I change this to CMYK, yellow is greater than magenta, but it should be closer to, greater, almost equal to, and then cyans are obviously very high. Now we can give it a shot. I can go ahead and go to select, load that selection for the face. Okay. Now I'm going to create a curves dialog for that, and now I'll grab that. Actually, I want to go into the cyan, which is with the red information. Okay. And then just try to manipulate that up and down. And if I bring that cyan down, it's just getting really red. So here's now numerically, cyan is 1/3 to 1/5 of magenta, and magenta is closer to yellow. But look at how bright that is. Now we could just go ahead and say okay, and just knock that back a little bit, and maybe that's. I zoom out. Control 0. That's not too bad. So it does help. And in fact, I'm fairly happy. So I made a liar out of myself. It actually worked fairly well. So there's that method at work. I still think it's a little bit too warm. It could be a little cooler than that, but not too bad. And then the hands is going to be tough because those little digits are just so purple. But let's give it a shot. And again, back out of that. And I don't know. Let's go ahead and put a color sampler down. Oops. Come on. And the reality is we're going to get so many different sets of numbers here. If I take those all to CMYK, it's going to be ridiculous. And yeah, you can see here cyan's way too high. Here it's high, but it's closer, and that's on that one. This number 3 is for the digits, and obviously we knew that was just too high. And then number 2, which is up here, cyan's still too high. But let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. And of course, I should correct things like this. This is part of this project. You should get rid of that line. That should be corrected. So let's make a selection. Let's load. I'm sorry, not make a section. Load the selection for the hands that we had. Say OK. It's not a terrible selection. I'll probably need to correct it a little bit down here. But now again, let's just go ahead and just for giggles, we'll do another curves, and we'll go into the cyan, the cyan information, which is with the red. And now that's just going to be ridiculous. But I'm looking at number 3 at 26%. Obviously it's just getting so red right off. So I'm just not. There's not much I'm going to be able to do. I mean, I can warm it up a little bit. That's nice. Go into the blues maybe and just kind of lower it a little bit. So now my yellow's really high, and the cyan's a little bit more in line, but you know, now they look a little jaundiced. It's just a little bit too much. Zooming out, it's better. It's better than it was. Okay, but not too bad. That's not terrible. We're using the numbers to try and help us out, and that is helpful. It did just as well as a lot of other methods. Now let's talk about some finishing touches, because you know, if you turned this in, I'd be pretty happy. I'd think this isn't bad. I'd knock someone because the masks aren't very clean here and here. You know, I'd probably find, you know, a couple little faults around as well. But the what's really going to put a project over the top is if people are paying attention to things like the eyes. Like, you know, look at how the eyes really can be brightened. You know, there's some work that can be done there. And then the lips. See how purple the lips are? So just really simple stuff like making the decision to try to do something with the whites of the eyes. And I'm being really sloppy here. You know what? Hold on a second. I think my tablet might be up now. Oh, thank you. I love my tablet. So let's do a quick mask. And use the brush and Control++. And this is just like I've showed you guys do in the past. This was just like on the retouching project. My brush is not soft. It should be. So now maybe I'll go through and just hit that again with the soft brush edge. And now back out, exit quick mask with Q, invert, and now create another hue saturation, and then just lighten just a touch, desaturate just a touch, and look what that does. Man, that just really makes a big difference in this image. So now again, we've gone from that global correction, overalls, background, more on the background, face, hands, eyes, and then of course we should go and try to do something with these lips. Oops. Q. Alright, there we go. Just going through and painting this up. Probably don't need to mess with the tongue too much. I'll just increase the size of the brush a little bit. So it's just a matter of going through like this systematically, and this is not taken a lot of time. I mean, in the time that I've been recording these videos from beginning to end, I mean, I've probably put in an hour. This video is, you know, obviously taking the longest amount of time, but not too bad. Hit that quick mask again, Control-Shift-I to invert, and now make another adjustment. Let's do this one as what do we want this to be? Let's do, I'm just going to try hue saturation again. Let's go into the blues. Let's maybe knock those blues back. No, that's not helping yet. Okay, let's try the cyans, because they're just too blue is the problem. Maybe what I need to do is actually on the master There we go. You can see what I'm trying to do here is I'm actually going to change the hue entirely, but they're too purple, so what I want to do is come over here to this side a little bit. So they're a little less purple. So I got like a +10 there. Maybe I can go into the reds now. Pop up the saturation of the reds. Oh yeah. I'm liking the way that looks now. And then just toggle the visibility. There, that's looking pretty good. And you know, we can do things like enhance the eyes. You know, you can do some soft light blending modes. So lots of great things that we can do here. Alright, so this video has gotten way too long. I'm going to stop this one. I'm going to make one more after this just to give you guys one last little tool to work with, one last thing to play with. But as you can see, this project is not insurmountable. It is actually quite manageable if you give yourself time.